right, today I'm super excited to show you one of my favorite ways to prepare mushrooms. Now, I love chicken, pork, beef, just as much as the next person, but I also find it really fun to use something that comes right out of the ground that still has that meaty texture and can provide that same kind of umami flavor that you get from chicken, pork, or beef, and it grows right from the ground. Today, I'm going to show you how to brine, bread, and fry an oyster mushroom. We are going to make a wonderful aioli to go on this sandwich, and then it is going to be the crunch factor on this one. I'm really excited to show you how to get it crispy, how to utilize these oyster mushrooms to the best of their ability. Let's get into it. Now, these oyster mushrooms have a wonderfully meaty texture. They can come in this gold or tan. I've even seen them blue, gray, and they're really one of my favorite mushrooms. Now, I like to find oyster mushrooms that kind of come in a clump like this. Sometimes you'll find them bigger, sometimes smaller, but I think utilizing this, especially for the sandwich we're gonna do today, really comes together well. It's gonna make it look more like a faux meat. It's gonna look almost like a piece of breaded chicken rather than just a mushroom. So you can hide it from some of your friends that maybe don't wanna try a mushroom or haven't tried a mushroom yet, and really show them, hey, this is what mushrooms are all about. Now we can use our knives, we can get down on the cutting board to chop all these up. But like I said, I wanted to keep all of these intact. The big problem here is this root. That's not gonna be quite as tender. It's not gonna give us really what we're looking for in this sandwich. So instead of utilizing a cutting board and a knife, I'm just gonna use my kitchen shears. I found this is the easiest way in exactly where you need to get. And so I'm just gonna be trimming off just a little bit of that root, a little bit of where that connected to the ground. You know, I still want to make sure that I am maintaining each and every one of the little mushrooms that is coming off of this root because, like I said, I want this to all stick together. But going in and finding right where we can cut with these beautiful kitchen shears, this is the way to do it. Just gonna clean up these little ones a little bit. Now everything is still together. We're still looking very nice, but now we're all cleaned up. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna brine this and turn this into a beautiful sandwich. Now that our oyster mushrooms are all clean, it's time to brine them. Now brining is gonna do a couple of things. First of all, it's gonna deeply season the mushroom. The pickle juice that I'm gonna use already has salt and sugar added to it, and so I know that's gonna be able to penetrate deep inside of the mushroom. Now, as it's doing that, it's also gonna tenderize the mushroom even more. That way, when we fry it, we just have to do it until it gets golden brown and delicious, and then it's done, and it's ready to go and ready to eat. So we're gonna take our prepared oyster mushroom, put it right in the bottom of a ramekin or any kind of dish there. Now I have a homemade pickle juice here. You can use the pickle juice right out of the jar. You can use dill, you can use kosher, you can use sour pickles. I wouldn't do that personally, but you can do whatever you want. Whatever your favorite pickle is. I have some beautiful pickled cucumbers here with a little bit of rosemary, and that's what we're gonna do, is just go ahead and cover up that oyster mushroom and let it brine. Now you can let this brine for 30 minutes. You can do it for an hour. You can probably do it overnight. My suggestion is to go ahead and do this for about an hour. That's gonna give it enough time to take on the flavor from the brine and also soften it a bit. I'm going to be utilizing the 3-tier breading station method for this mushroom. Really what that means is we're gonna start with a dry, we're gonna move to a wet, and then back into a dry for that final coating. In our first bowl right here, I'm gonna use flour. The goal here is to get flour adhered to each nook and cranny on the mushroom to make sure that it gets crispy all the way around. Now for the wet portion of this breading station, I'm gonna utilize eggs. Usually 2 full eggs will do the trick. Now for the last dry bowl on our breading station, I'm gonna use a half and half mixture of all-purpose flour and cornstarch. Now, why am I mixing it up from just the plain flour in the first one? I find that cornstarch really gives you that crispiness you're looking for, and it stays crispy for a really long time. But it doesn't get the color, get that good browning that you're looking for in something that is deep fried. So by using half flour, half cornstarch, I'm gonna get that crispiness from the cornstarch and that beautiful golden brown from the flour. So we're gonna do half of a cup of our cornstarch. and finishing off with another half cup of flour. Now, the number one mistake I see when people are making breading stations is they just go for it right here. They've got their dry, they've got their wet, and then they've got their dry. But the problem is there's no seasoning in these. So no matter what, each and every time, always season your flour, season your eggs, and season your finishing flour. If you're using breadcrumbs over here, like a panko or something that's really crunchy, still add seasoning. I'm gonna keep it easy, but this is still gonna bring a lot of flavor to the party. We're gonna go with salt on all three, a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, and just to add a little more flavor to the party, some garlic powder as well. Give all of those one last thorough mix, and we're all good to go. This is going to ensure that each and every bite of this mushroom sandwich is going to be flavorful and delicious. Now that an hour has passed, we're going to take our oyster mushroom out of our brining liquid. You'll notice that it is a little bit softer, and if you were to taste it right now, there would be a lot more flavor too. First thing we're going to do is add it directly into our flour there. Now, I've already used this hand to pull something out of wet, so this is going to be my wet hand. From now on, I'm only going to use my left hand when I'm working with the flour or the cornstarch and flour, and only my right hand when I have it in the eggs there. Don't be afraid to get in there, cover it all up. Again, right now, the goal of this is to make sure flour is coating each and every part of the mushroom. That way, when we dip this into the egg coats each and every part of that flour. The flour is honestly gonna act like a glue to make sure that the egg sticks to each and every part. As you can see, open it up all around. This is completely dusted in flour. Shake off whatever excess there is, and then we're gonna put it right into our egg mixture. As you can see, the eggs are coating this beautifully because we had that all coated in flour. If we didn't coat this in flour, the egg would just be dripping right off and we would have this beautiful yellow color here. Finally, into our cornstarch and flour mixture, and we're gonna move that around as well. Now, because we're using an oyster mushroom here and not a piece of chicken or pork or something like that, we're already gonna have some of these, irregular shapes because it's a mushroom. And I like to see that, especially when I'm frying up a chicken sandwich. But I wanna give you a little tip that I learned along the way, is that if you want some of those crispy, craggly bites that you get that are just the really crunchy breading, take a little bit of your eggs, really gently pour it into that final mixture and move it around a little bit. What this is gonna do is create little balls of dough with that egg yolk and flour mixture, and we can stick this directly to the mushroom and get those awesome crunchy bits. Always, when you're done breading your mushrooms or chicken or whatever it might be, shake off any of that excess flour. So this is gonna be our beautiful oyster mushroom that we are gonna fry up. When we're all done breading, I like to move them over to a wire rack on top of a baking sheet as they await the fryer. And once we hit 375, it's time to fry. And after just about 4 minutes, we have an oyster mushroom that is golden, brown, delicious, and super crispy. Let's make a sandwich. Don't forget, immediately after this comes out of the fryer, hit it with just a little bit more salt. Now it's time to make a beautiful aioli for this oyster mushroom sandwich. Now, there's a lot of different ways to make aioli. You can put it in a blender, you can use a whisk and really tire out your arm, but my absolute favorite way is to use a stick blender or an immersion blender. Now, I gotta say, the stick blender has really become one of my absolute favorite tools in the kitchen, and I really think everybody should have one. This is incredibly versatile. It's portable. It's a lot easier than lugging out your giant blender out of your pantry. And it just works really, really well. You can use it in sauces on the stove. You can blend them up so you don't have to take them off the heat, pour them in a blender, pour them back, dirty more things up. They're gonna use less energy as well because it's not a full blender. And really, it's easy. And I really suggest everybody check out a stick blender or an immersion blender. Now this recipe couldn't be easier. We're gonna start out with about 200 milliliters of olive oil. You can use any oil that you'd like. You could use a canola oil, you could use avocado oil. I just like the flavor that a olive oil really imparts into this. So we're gonna get this all the way up to just about 200 milliliters. We're gonna crack in 1 whole egg. And of course, it wouldn't be an aioli without some garlic grated in. Now we can blend this up right now and it's good to go, but I want to make sure that this turns into an aioli, into a mayonnaise. And so I'm going to take some mustard, which has a lot of really good emulsifiers in it, and I'm going to put just a little bit in there as well. It's not going to be enough that it's going to taste mustardy, but everything in this mustard is going to allow this aioli to come together really, really well. As you can see, the egg yolk is sitting right at the bottom of my jar here. I'm going to take the base of my immersion blender and put that right over the egg yolk and turn it on. That's going to ensure that that egg yolk and the fats get whipped in right away and start that emulsification process. And all of a sudden you'll see in this turn bright white. It's pretty dang cool. And just like that, in about 15 seconds, we have a beautiful, thick garlic aioli. At this point, I suggest adding in just a little bit of salt for flavor, and then you can add lemon juice or just a little bit of vinegar, anything with acid, just to bring it to life. One more time. Always taste. And just like that, in no time at all, a beautiful aioli for our sandwich. And don't forget the #1 rule of sandwich making, always toast your buns. Now, when it comes to plating a sandwich, I'm a firm believer that this is the order you should go in. First, we're gonna take the bottom of our toasted bun, and then we're gonna add that garlic aioli that we made earlier. Because we toasted the bun, this will keep it from getting soggy. And we're gonna have that aioli right there on the bottom, and it's gonna act as a glue for your lettuce, or in this case, some beautiful spinach. So I'm gonna lay a nice bed of spinach right here at the bottom of our sandwich. And that's gonna stay there because it's sticking to the aioli. That way when you bite into it, it doesn't go everywhere. Then we're gonna take our beautifully crispy oyster mushroom, set it right on top. If you like, you can drizzle a little bit more aioli right there, again, to act as a glue for the perfectly toasted top bun that we're gonna put right there. So that's what it looks like when you're taking it to the table or serving it to your friends. It's always great just to put a little skewer right through it. That way it doesn't fall apart when you're bringing it to the table. What do you think, guys? Should we give this a try? I really hope that you've learned a few things from this video. You know, how to use mushrooms in new and exciting ways, how to make a beautiful aioli, and how to use that breading station to your advantage as well. Now, remember, I may use ingredients just like salt, pepper, and garlic powder, but the world is your oyster mushroom. You could really tailor it to whatever your preferences are. Now, I think it's time to, 1, always remove that skewer, and let's go ahead and take a bite of this bad boy. I really hope you can hear this crunch. Beautiful crunch, just like you're biting into a fried chicken sandwich. That aioli we made with the salt, Just a little bit of vinegar adds that kind of twang to it. A little bit of acidity just really lifts it. And then the freshness from that spinach as well. As you notice, nothing slid out of the back. This construction of the sandwich is exactly what I was hoping for. Let me know if you give this a try. Thanks for watching.